After years working offshore, I was finally coming home for Christmas, until my dad texted, "You're not welcome." I replied, "Understood." 5 days later, my phone had over 10 missed calls, one from their lawyer. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. TLDR at bottom, but you really need to read this whole thing to understand how freaked up this situation got. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. This happened over the holidays and I'm still processing everything. Fair warning. This is going to be long as hell, but I promise it's worth the read. Also posting this because I need to know if I'm the asshole here or if my family really is as messed up as I think they are. Some background first because you need to understand the full picture. I'm David, 28 years old, and I work offshore on drilling platforms in the Gulf of Mexico. Been doing it for about 7 years now. It's brutal work. 14 days on, 7 days off, dangerous as hell, but the money is incredible. I make around $175,000 a year with overtime, which is more than anyone in my small hometown has ever seen. The work isn't for everyone. Picture being on a metal platform in the middle of the ocean for 2 weeks straight, working 12-hour shifts in all weather conditions. We're talking about 40-foot waves during storms, equipment that weighs thousands of pounds and can crush you if you make one wrong move, and toxic gases that can kill you before you even know you're breathing them. I've been through 3 major hurricanes, equipment failures that could kill you in seconds, and accidents that would make your stomach turn. Lost 2 fingers on my left hand to a chain slip 3 years ago when a cable snapped under tension. The sound still gives me nightmares. But every time I deposit that paycheck and see those numbers in my account, I remember why I do it. Growing up, I was always the black sheep in my family. My dad Michael works at the local Toyota dealership in sales and brings home maybe $50,000 in a good year when he actually tries. My mom Jennifer hasn't worked since I was born, just stays home watching TV and spending money on QVC shopping networks, ordering weird kitchen gadgets and jewelry that sits in boxes. My sister Brittany is 25 and has never held a steady job longer than 6 months. Just bounces between guys who pay her bills while she finds herself. My younger brother Austin is 23, still lives at home in his childhood bedroom, and works part-time at a comic book store while playing video games 12 hours a day. When I graduated high school, I told them I wasn't going to college. I wanted to learn welding and work on oil rigs. My dad went absolutely insane, called me a worthless dropout, and said I'd never be anything but trailer trash. We had this massive fight in our living room where he told me if I walked out that door to chase some stupid dream, I shouldn't bother coming back. Mom just sat there crying, Brittany rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic, and Austin didn't even look up from his PlayStation. So I didn't come back. For almost 8 years. But here's where it gets interesting and shows you exactly what kind of people they are. Once I started making serious money, suddenly I was their favorite son again. They'd call asking for emergency loans that were never paid back. Every few months it was something new. Brittany needed $1,200 for rent because her boyfriend kicked her out after she maxed out his credit cards. Austin wanted an $800 gaming chair and $600 graphics card because his old setup was embarrassing compared to his online friends. Mom's 15-year-old Honda needed $2,400 in transmission work, but she'd been ignoring warning signs for months. Dad's truck needed new tires for $900 after he drove on bald ones for a year. The water heater broke, and they needed $1,500 to replace it, but they'd spent their emergency fund on a vacation to Florida. Brittany got arrested for drunk driving and needed $3,000 for a lawyer because it was her second offense. Austin crashed Mom's car texting while driving, and they needed $2,800 for repairs because insurance wouldn't cover it due to his negligence. The pattern was always the same. Crisis caused by their own poor decisions, followed by frantic calls to me for a bailout. Every time they called, it was an emergency. Every time I sent money, they'd promise to pay me back. Every time they got the money, I'd never hear about paying it back again. I was an idiot and kept helping because I thought that's what family does. I figured they were just going through rough patches and things would get better. This past December, I decided to take my first real vacation in 3 years. I was going to spend a whole month at home for Christmas. I'd even bought a house in town with cash, a nice 3-bedroom place for $295,000 that I was planning to surprise them with. I thought maybe we could all have Christmas dinner there, start over fresh. Maybe they'd see I'd made something of myself, and we could actually be a real family again. I should have known better. December 19th, I'm at Lowe's picking out a Christmas tree, actually feeling excited about the holidays for the first time in years, when I get this text from my dad. Don't come home for Christmas. We need a break from your attitude. I'm standing there in the Christmas tree lot reading this shit like, what the actual freak? What attitude? I hadn't even made it home yet. I literally just drove into town that morning and went straight to the store. I texted back, what are you talking about? His response came an hour later. You know exactly what you did. Find somewhere else to spend the holidays. I had no clue what I supposedly did. So I called him, straight to voicemail. Called mom, same thing. Brittany and Austin weren't picking up either. I'm starting to panic thinking maybe someone got hurt or died, and somehow it was my fault, or maybe there was some family emergency I didn't know about. Finally, Brittany calls me back around 8 p.m. I could hear party music in the background. David? Yeah, Dad doesn't want you here anymore. You're just gonna start drama like you always do. What drama? I just got to town. I haven't even seen you guys yet. Whatever. I don't want to deal with your bullshit right now. Just stay away. Brittany, what the hell is going on? What did I supposedly do? I don't know. Ask Dad. I'm busy. And she hung up. Just like that. 7 years of sending them money, 7 years of missing holidays to work double shifts so I could afford to help them. And this is the thanks I get. No explanation, no discussion, just get lost. I drove to my new house that night and sat in the empty living room looking at the Christmas tree I'd bought, feeling like the biggest fool who ever lived. I'd actually thought this Christmas would be different. I'd thought maybe we could be a real family again. Christmas Eve was honestly the worst day I've ever experienced. And I've been in some life-threatening situations on those rigs where I thought I might die. I tried calling Mom Christmas morning. She actually answered this time, but she sounded weird and distant. David, just leave us alone. We're trying to have a peaceful holiday. Mom, I'm serious. What did I do? I have no idea why everyone's mad at me. Don't act stupid. Michael told us about the money situation. What money situation? What are you talking about? How you've been lying to us about how much you make. How you bought that house without telling us. How you've been hiding money from your own family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I wasn't hiding anything. I worked my ass off for every dollar on those platforms. I bought the house as a surprise. I was going to invite you all over for Christmas dinner and show you guys what I've been working toward. Right. You just wanted to show off how much better you think you are than us. Mom, I've given you guys over $35,000 in the past 2 years alone. How is that showing off? That's different. That was helping family. This house thing is just rubbing our faces in it. How is buying a house to spend time with family rubbing your faces in anything? Because you didn't tell us. You just went and did it on your own like we don't matter. I hung up. I was so mad I punched the wall and immediately regretted it. Because I'd just bought the place. My knuckles were bleeding, and there was a hole in the drywall. I spent Christmas Day assembling furniture I'd ordered online, because I didn't know what else to do with myself. Every piece I put together just reminded me that I'd bought all this stuff thinking I'd be hosting family dinners and game nights. My phone was completely silent. No calls, no texts, no Merry Christmas messages. Absolutely nothing. Like I'd never existed. The worst part was checking their Facebook posts later that evening. Brittany had uploaded dozens of photos from Christmas dinner. Everyone laughing and having the time of their lives around my parents' dining room table. The same table where I used to sit as a kid. Austin posted videos of himself opening presents, including what looked like a brand new gaming setup that probably cost $1,200. One of his comments said, "Best Christmas ever." Mom shared some post about being thankful for family that actually shows up when it matters, with a bunch of crying, laughing emojis. They were celebrating my absence like it was the best Christmas gift they could have asked for. All that money I'd sent them over the years, all those times I worked back-to-back shifts in dangerous conditions to help them out, and they were partying like my exile was cause for celebration. That's when it hit me like a brick to the face. They never actually wanted me around. They just wanted access to my bank account. I was never their son or brother. I was their ATM. December 29th. I'm sitting in my empty house feeling sorry for myself and wondering what the hell I'm going to do with my life now. When my phone rings. Unknown local number. Is this David Chen? Yeah. Who's asking? This is Linda Martinez from Martinez and Associates Law Firm. I'm calling about your grandfather William Chen's estate. I'm very sorry for your loss. My stomach dropped like I was falling off the platform. What loss? What are you talking about? Long pause on her end. Mr. Chen, your grandfather passed away on December 24th. You weren't notified? Grandpa William was dead? He died on Christmas Eve and nobody told me? The day after my family banned me from Christmas, my grandfather died alone, and nobody thought to call me? No, ma'am, this is the first I'm hearing about it. I see. Well, I'm calling because you're named in his will. We need to schedule a reading as soon as possible. I had to sit down. My legs just gave out. Grandpa William left me something? We weren't super close growing up. He was my dad's father, and since me and dad didn't get along after I left home, I barely saw him except for maybe 5 minutes at family gatherings before I stopped going to those too. What did he leave me? I can't discuss specifics over the phone, but it's significant. Can you come in tomorrow morning? I drove to her office the next day, still trying to wrap my head around everything. Grandpa William had owned this small machine shop that he'd run for decades, plus an old farmhouse on about 20 acres outside town. I figured maybe he left me some tools or his old pickup truck, maybe a few $1,000s. Nothing major. Ms. Martinez spread out a bunch of papers on her desk like she was dealing cards. The machine shop, the farmhouse, the land, and apparently a bunch of rental properties around town that I didn't even know he owned. 12 houses total, all paid off, bringing in about $15,000 a month in rent. The total estimated value is approximately $2.4 million. I almost fell out of my chair. Had to grab the armrest to keep from sliding onto the floor. 2.4 million? My grandfather was secretly a millionaire? The man who drove a 20-year-old truck and wore the same 3 flannel shirts was worth more than most people see in a lifetime? Why me? We didn't talk much after I left home. Ms. Martinez handed me an envelope with my name written on it in Grandpa's careful handwriting. He left this letter for you. Inside was a note that made my eyes water. David, you're the only one in this family who knows the value of hard work. Your father and his children think success should be handed to them, but you've earned everything you have through blood, sweat, and sacrifice. Don't let them destroy what you've built. They'll come back when they smell money. But remember how they treated you when they thought you had nothing to offer them. Make me proud, son. William, the old man knew. He'd been watching everything from a distance and knew exactly what kind of people they were. He'd seen how they treated me, and he'd made his decision accordingly. But there was a catch. The will reading had to include the whole family, and if anyone tried to contest it, they'd forfeit any claim to anything, not even $1. When's the reading? January 6th. I've already contacted your father. I bet that was an interesting freaking conversation. The week between New Year's and the will reading was the most entertaining week of my life. My phone started going crazy about 2 hours after Ms. Martinez called my dad. First call was from Austin. David, bro, did you hear about Grandpa? Suddenly I'm bro again. Funny how fast that changed. Yeah, I heard. This is insane, right? We're all gonna be loaded. We should totally party when you come back for the lawyer thing. I'm thinking Vegas. Notice how he said, we're all gonna be loaded. This kid who hadn't spoken to me in months was already planning how to spend money that wasn't his. We'll see, I said, and hung up. Next was Brittany. David, oh my God. I feel so bad about Christmas. Dad was just really stressed about work stuff and took it out on everyone. You know how he gets when sales are down. Interesting how Dad's work stress somehow turned into me being banned from Christmas. Sure, Brittany. So do you know what Grandpa left us? Austin thinks it might be a lot of money, like enough to change our lives. I'll find out at the reading. Well, obviously, we'll split everything equally between the 4 of us kids, right? That's only fair. I mean, we're all his grandchildren. I almost laughed. Now she's worried about fairness. We'll see what the will says. Come on, David. You're not seriously thinking about keeping everything for yourself, are you? That would be so selfish. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just gonna listen to what Grandpa wanted. She got quiet for a second. Well, whatever happens, we should celebrate together as a family. Maybe take a trip somewhere nice. We could all use a vacation. The best call was from my dad. He actually tried to sound sincere and fatherly. Son, I owe you a big apology. I was dealing with some work drama and took it out on you unfairly. Work drama? You know how it is in sales. End-of-year quotas, stressed customers, the whole thing. Anyway, why don't you come over tonight? Your mom's making that meatloaf you used to like as a kid. The same mom who told me to leave them alone a week earlier. I'm busy. David, come on. Let's not let some family disagreement get in the way of this important time. We need to stick together through this loss. There it was. Not Grandpa's death, not reconciling our relationship. This important time when money might be involved. I'll see you at the will reading. Look, I know things have been tough between us, But your grandfather would want us to be united as a family right now. Would he? Because he seemed pretty clear about what he thought of family unity when he wrote his will. Dad went quiet. What do you mean? Nothing. I'll see you Monday. Over the next week, I got constant texts from all of them. Brittany sent me links to expensive apartments with messages like, thinking about moving here after we get our inheritance. Austin was looking at new cars online and sending me screenshots. Mom started talking about remodeling their house and taking a cruise to Europe. Dad mentioned maybe opening his own dealership. They were already spending money they didn't have, from a man who died thinking they were greedy parasites. I spent that week doing research on Grandpa's properties. Turns out he'd been incredibly smart with his investments. The rental houses were all in good neighborhoods, with reliable long-term tenants. Some had been renting the same places for over 10 years. The machine shop was still profitable, even though he'd mostly retired, and had a manager running day-to-day operations. He'd specialized in custom parts for local factories, and had contracts worth hundreds of thousands annually. The man had built a legitimate business empire from nothing, starting with a single welding torch in his garage back in the 1970s. By the time he died, he owned property worth millions, and had more money in the bank than my entire family had ever seen combined. I also found out more about why he chose me. Talked to his neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, who told me Grandpa had been following my family on social media for years. He saw Brittany's constant shopping posts and party pictures, Austin's expensive gaming purchases and complaints about being broke, my parents always posting about money problems while buying new stuff. But he also saw my posts from the rigs, photos of me working in dangerous conditions, covered in grease and mud, earning every dollar through sweat and blood. Your grandfather always said you were the only one who understood that nothing in life is free, Mrs. Garcia told me. He was so proud when you made something of yourself despite how your family treated you. He used to show me pictures of your work and tell me stories about the letters you'd send him. Letters? Oh yes, you two wrote back and forth all the time. He kept everyone in a box by his bed. That hit me right in the chest. This man I'd barely spoken to in person had been quietly rooting for me while my own parents treated me like a walking ATM. January 6th couldn't come fast enough. I showed up at the law office at exactly 1 p.m. wearing clean jeans and my best work shirt. Nothing fancy, but I looked respectable. My family was already there. And holy shit, they dressed up like they were going to a wedding or job interview. Dad wore a suit I'd never seen before. Probably bought it that week. Mom had a new dress and jewelry I didn't recognize. Brittany looked like she was going to some fancy party, all done up with makeup and her hair styled. Austin actually wore a button-down shirt instead of a graphic tee, which might have been the first time in his adult life. They were all sitting on one side of the conference table, whispering excitedly to each other like kids on Christmas morning. When I walked in, their faces lit up with these huge fake smiles. David! Mom jumped up and tried to hug me. We've missed you so much. The same woman who told me to leave them alone 10 days earlier. I sat down across from them without saying anything. Ms. Martinez came in carrying a thick folder and looking very serious. Before we begin, I want to make clear that this will was updated 8 months ago and properly witnessed by 3 independent parties. Mr. Chen was of completely sound mind when these changes were made. Brittany leaned forward eagerly. What kind of changes? Ms. Martinez opened the folder and pulled out several documents. William Chen's will leaves his entire estate, valued at approximately $2.4 million, to his grandson David Chen. The room went dead silent. You could hear the fluorescent lights humming overhead and the air conditioning kicking on. Then Austin exploded. What the hell? That can't be right. Ms. Martinez stayed perfectly calm. The will is very explicit. The machine shop, the farmhouse, all rental properties, and associated assets transfer to David. Dad's face turned bright red, and his hands started shaking. This is ridiculous. David hasn't even talked to William in years. That's not accurate, I said quietly. Grandpa and I stayed in touch through email and letters. He knew all about my work and my life. Emails? Brittany screeched. You were talking to him behind our backs? I wasn't hiding anything. You never bothered to ask. This is bullshit. Austin stood up and started pacing around the small conference room. We visited him way more than you did. We brought him groceries and helped with yard work. You helped with yard work exactly twice in 10 years, I said. And both times you complained the entire time about getting dirty. Mom started tearing up, her mascara already starting to run. William always said he'd take care of all his grandchildren. We were counting on this. We have plans. We already talked to contractors about renovating the house. That's when it clicked. They weren't just surprised. They'd been expecting this inheritance. They'd been planning on it, probably for months, maybe even years. They'd been spending money they didn't have because they thought Grandpa's death would solve all their problems. "How much debt are you guys in?" I asked. They all went quiet and looked at each other. "Seriously, how much?" Dad finally answered. "That's not relevant to this discussion. Austin, what do you owe on credit cards?" "Dude, why does that matter right now?" "Because you were already spending Grandpa's money before he was even buried." That's not how it is." "Brittany, how much do you owe?" She crossed her arms. "I don't have to answer that." I turned to Ms. Martinez. "Does the will mention anything about family debts?" She nodded and pulled out another document. Mr. Chen was aware of his family's financial difficulties. He specifically states, "I am not responsible for the poor financial choices of my children and grandchildren." David is under no obligation to use his inheritance to rescue family members who have repeatedly proven they cannot manage money responsibly. Holy shit. Grandpa really had been paying attention to everything. Austin started panicking. "This isn't fair. David makes crazy money already. He doesn't need all this." "And you do?" I asked. "We're family. We're supposed to help each other." I actually laughed out loud. "Help each other? Like how you helped me at Christmas?" Brittany tried switching tactics. "David, be reasonable. You can't seriously keep all of this. Grandpa would want us to share. He loved all of us. If Grandpa wanted you to have it, he would have left it to you." Dad slammed his hand on the table, making everyone jump. "You ungrateful piece of shit! After everything we've done for you, what exactly have you done for me? Name one thing. We raised you until I was 18 and you kicked me out for not going to college. We supported your career choice. You called me worthless trailer trash and said I'd never amount to anything." Mom was crying harder now. "David, please. We made mistakes, but we're still family. Family forgives each other." "You're absolutely right," I said. "Family does forgive. So I forgive you for Christmas. I forgive you for not telling me Grandpa died. I forgive you for only calling me when you need money. I forgive you for treating me like an ATM for 7 years." They looked hopeful for a second. "But forgiveness doesn't mean I'm stupid enough to give you money you'll just waste on more stupid shit." I signed all the papers, shook Ms. Martinez's hand, and headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear Brittany screaming and Austin hitting something. In the parking lot, Dad caught up to me and grabbed my arm. "This isn't over," he said. "We'll fight this. We'll contest the will." "Go ahead," I told him, pulling my arm free. "Ms. Martinez already explained what happens when you contest the will. You'll get absolutely nothing and pay thousands in legal fees you can't afford." His face went pale. He knew I was right. "David, please, we're family." "No, we're not. Family doesn't abandon each other right before Christmas. Family doesn't hide deaths from each other. Family doesn't only call when they need money." I drove home to my house, made myself some coffee, and called my supervisor to let him know I'd be taking extended time off to handle business affairs. The business of watching my family realize they'd completely screwed themselves. The next 2 months were absolutely incredible. Like watching a slow-motion car crash that you can't look away from, except you're not horrified. You're entertained as hell. It started with Austin showing up at my door on January 10th, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. "David, man, I'm completely screwed. I owe like $28,000 on credit cards, and my car payment's due. Can you help me out? Just until I get back on my feet?" "How much were you expecting from Grandpa's will?" "I don't know. Maybe $400,000? Enough to pay everything off and get a decent car. Maybe move out of Mom and Dad's house." "You were gonna blow $400,000 on credit card debt and a car?" "And other stuff, but come on, you're rich now. What's $28,000 to you? It's like pocket change." I closed the door without another word. Brittany lasted until January 15th. She showed up crying, which was unusual for her since she's usually more of a screamer than a crier. "David, I'm pregnant." "Congratulations." "The guy took off when he found out. I can't raise a baby alone. I need help." "Get a job." "I can't work while I'm pregnant. I have terrible morning sickness." Millions of pregnant women work every day, Brittany. Those women don't have brothers who could easily help them. Those women also don't have brothers who got told Christmas was better without them. She tried the guilt trip approach. "This is your nephew or niece we're talking about. Don't you want them to have a good life? I want them to have a mother who makes responsible choices. You're really gonna punish an innocent baby because of some stupid family fight? I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just not rewarding bad decisions." She left screaming about how I was heartless and cruel, and how she hoped I choked on my money. Mom and Dad took a coordinated approach. They started showing up together, trying to manipulate me with guilt and sob stories. Your grandfather wouldn't want his family to suffer like this, Mom said during one visit. Grandpa specifically wrote that you guys make poor financial decisions, I reminded her. We've learned from our mistakes. What mistakes? Name one specific mistake you've learned from. Well, we shouldn't have been so hard on you about college. That's not a financial mistake. That's just admitting you were wrong about my career choice. They couldn't do it. They literally couldn't identify a single financial mistake they'd made because they didn't think spending money they didn't have was a mistake. They thought it was normal. Dad tried intimidation. You're tearing this family apart over money. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm just not fixing what you already broke. We're your parents. You owe us respect. Respect is earned. What have you done to earn mine? He stormed off without an answer. The best part was watching their social media meltdown. Brittany had to move back in with my parents because she couldn't afford rent. Austin's car got repossessed and he had to take the bus to his part-time job. Mom and Dad listed their house because they were 3 months behind on mortgage payments. Everything they'd been hiding with the promise of inheritance money was coming out into the open. The breaking point came in March. All 4 of them showed up at my door together, looking desperate and defeated. David, we really need to talk, Dad said. I let them in, mostly because I was curious how low they'd go. They sat on my couch looking miserable. Austin was twitchy and nervous, probably going through gaming withdrawal since his setup got repossessed. Brittany looked like she'd been crying for days. Mom couldn't make eye contact. Dad was trying to maintain some dignity, but failing miserably. We've been thinking, Mom started carefully. Maybe we could work out some kind of deal. What kind of deal? We could work for you, Brittany said. You could hire us to help with the rental properties or the machine shop. I nearly choked on my coffee. You want me to hire you? It would keep the business in the family, Dad said. Make William proud. What qualifications do any of you have for property management or running a machine shop? Silence. Austin, have you ever fixed anything mechanical in your life? No, but I'm good with computers. I could learn. Brittany, have you ever managed anything besides to get yourself fired? I worked at a restaurant for like 4 months. You got fired for not showing up and stealing from the tip jar. That was different. I was going through stuff. Mom, what would you do? I could handle paperwork, answer phones, do bookkeeping. You've never had a job in your adult life. I raised 3 children, one of whom you threw out at 18 and 2 others who are complete financial disasters. Dad tried to take control. The point is, we're willing to work now. We understand that money has to be earned. What do you understand? That we can't just expect handouts? He said it like he was guessing at the right answer on a test. Here's the thing, I said, standing up. Even if I believed you'd learned anything, which I don't, I wouldn't trust any of you with my business. You've proven you can't handle money, can't keep jobs, and can't treat family with basic decency. Austin started actually crying. Real tears. David, please, I'm gonna be homeless. You're living with Mom and Dad. They're losing their house. We're all gonna be on the street. Then maybe you should have thought about that before telling me Christmas was better without me. Brittany got angry. You're really gonna let your pregnant sister become homeless over hurt feelings? I'm not making you homeless. Your choices are making you homeless. This is all because we hurt your feelings one time? No. This is because you showed me exactly who you really are, and I believed you. Mom tried one final guilt trip. Your grandfather would be ashamed of how you're treating family. Grandpa left me everything specifically because he knew you'd waste it. He's probably laughing wherever he is, watching you beg for money from the son you threw away. Dad completely lost it. Fine. Keep your freaking money. But don't come crying to us when you need family. When have you ever been there when I needed you? Name one time. He had no answer. None of them did. They left, and that was the last time I saw any of them. It's been 8 months now, and my life is completely transformed. But the absolute best part is watching my family's total collapse from the sidelines. Dad had to declare bankruptcy in April. Turns out he owed money everywhere. Credit cards, personal loans. He'd even borrowed against his pension and taken out a second mortgage. The house went into foreclosure in May, and they had to do one of those humiliating yard sales where neighbors come to pick through your life for bargains. They're renting a tiny 2-bedroom apartment now in the worst part of town, the kind of place where car break-ins happen weekly, and the walls are so thin you can hear every argument. Dad's working at 2 different dealerships trying to dig out of his hole, pulling 60-hour weeks and looking 10 years older than he did last Christmas. Austin moved to another state to live with some online friend he met gaming. Last I heard through the grapevine, He was working in a warehouse doing night shifts and still complaining about how unfair life is. He sends me friend requests on social media every few weeks, which I ignore. Brittany had her baby, a boy she named after some pop star. The father never came back, so she's a single mom on government assistance living in a studio apartment. She posted some passive-aggressive stuff on Facebook about fake family and how she's better off without people who change when they get money. Her friends kept asking what happened, and she just said, "Some people forget where they came from." Yeah, some people do forget where they came from. I remember exactly where I came from, and I remember exactly how I was treated there. The funniest part is, they've been telling people around town that I stole their inheritance, and that Grandpa was tricked by lawyers, or not in his right mind. Nobody believes them because everyone knew Grandpa William was sharp as a tack until the day he died. Plus, people remember how they treated me when I was younger. Mrs. Garcia told me that Mom tried to get neighbors to sign some petition demanding an investigation into Grandpa's will. Mrs. Garcia told her to get lost, which apparently made Mom cry in public. Word spread around town about that pretty quick. I'm dating this woman, Rebecca, who's a nurse practitioner at the local hospital. She's smart, independent, makes her own money, and doesn't expect me to solve her problems or pay her bills. When I told her about my family situation, she just said, "Good for you for standing up for yourself," and meant it. We're talking about moving in together, maybe getting married eventually. She's the first person I've ever been with who loves me for who I am, not what I can give them. It's a completely different kind of relationship than anything I've ever experienced. They made their choices when they thought I was just some blue-collar worker with nothing valuable to offer. They chose money over family, then got upset when I chose the same thing. Grandpa William saw this coming from miles away. He knew they were selfish, entitled, and would dump me the second I stopped being useful. He designed his will not just to take care of me, but to teach them about consequences. They wanted Christmas to be better without me. Now their whole lives get to be without me, and my life is infinitely better without them.